There are moments in life when something invisible shifts, quietly, mysteriously, as if the universe itself has inhaled and is holding its breath. Time doesn't stop, but it slows. The ordinary turns translucent, and in that strange liminal pause, something arrives, not in fireworks, not in fanfare, but in whispers. A glance across a room that feels like a memory, a conversation with a stranger that uncovers pieces of you, a dream that stays with you longer than it should, or a presence, a person you don't yet know but somehow recognize. They don't explode into your life. They slip in quietly, like a thread your heart already knows how to weave. These are not just random experiences. They are echoes. Echoes of the soul stirring beneath the surface of your awareness, preparing for something it senses long before your conscious mind can name it. And if you've felt this lately, this subtle unraveling, this sense that your life is shifting even if nothing external has changed, you might be on the threshold of a meeting, not just with another person, but with yourself. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist and mystic of the inner world, believed that such meetings were never accidents. He spoke of synchronicity, those strange, meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to ignore. A name repeated everywhere, a song playing at just the right time, a sudden impulse to go somewhere, and then something happens. These are not mere coincidences. They are psychic fingerprints, clues from the deeper parts of you that know transformation is coming. But it's not always about love. Not in the traditional sense. These meetings aren't about fairy tales. They are about mirrors. Mirrors that reflect back the unspoken truths, the unlived desires, the hidden wounds you've been carrying for years. And often, it's not the relationship that changes your life. It's what it reveals. So how do you know when you're standing at the edge of one of these soul meetings? You don't always know in your mind, but your soul does. And it begins speaking in symbols, sensations, subtle rearrangements of your inner world. Here are the 4 signs, beginning with the first, that you're approaching a meeting that will not just shift your path, but awaken the version of you that's been waiting to be born. Sign 1, your inner world begins to rearrange. Before they arrive, before you even know their name, your soul begins to make space. It doesn't happen all at once. It's subtle, like furniture being moved in a dream. You may wake up one day and realize that your desires no longer fit your life, that what once satisfied you now feels hollow, that the friends, the routines, the identity you've been wearing are somehow too small. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're being recalibrated. Carl Jung taught that transformation begins in the unconscious. The psyche, he said, often stirs before the mind understands what is happening. And so before the soulmate, or teacher, or friend or mirror appears, your soul begins rearranging your life in preparation. This can feel disorienting. You may find yourself longing for something you can't name. You might feel distant from people you once felt close to. There may be a quiet ache inside you, a restlessness that doesn't seem to point to anything specific. But this is sacred disarray. Because transformation doesn't enter a tidy house. The soul doesn't invite in change when everything is neatly arranged. It arrives in the mess, in the chaos before the clarity. And often the person who helps you rebuild is already walking toward you, even if neither of you knows it yet. This inner reorientation is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming ready. Ready to receive what resonates with your next level of growth. Ready to hold space for a connection that is not built on need or fantasy, but on truth, depth, reflection. You may begin to revisit old wounds. Memories may surface unexpectedly. Things you thought you'd healed or forgotten. Old fears might whisper again. But this too is preparation, because the soul doesn't clear space unless it's about to be filled. And here's what's even more powerful. The person who's coming won't rescue you from these feelings. They'll mirror them. They'll reflect back the parts of you that are surfacing now. And if you've made space for them, if you've begun to meet those parts within yourself, you'll be able to meet them with someone else. So if your inner world feels strange lately, if your dreams feel louder, your emotions more raw, your inner voice more persistent. Pause, listen. You're not unraveling. You're being reassembled. The preparation beneath the surface. Carl Jung believed that the soul calls in transformation through people, not just events, not just situations, but through presence, through relationships that act as thresholds, doorways, mirrors. And these threshold moments don't always arrive with a label. You may not know until much later that this was the conversation, this was the encounter. This was the moment your soul turned a corner. That's why the signs often start small, subtle. Not like lightning, but like a change in pressure, a shift in air, a knowing that something is near, even if you can't explain it. Some people call these meetings fate, others divine timing. Jung called it archetypal alignment, the moment when your inner world is ready to meet its reflection in the outer world. It's not about who you're looking for, it's about who you're becoming. Because we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are, or who we're ready to become. Once your inner world begins to shift, once your soul starts rearranging itself, something remarkable happens. The world begins to whisper back. At first, it's easy to dismiss. You see a name over and over. You dream of a stranger and then hear someone mention them the next day. You think of a place and suddenly everyone's talking about it. A specific symbol, animal, or song shows up in unlikely places, first once, then again and again. You try to tell yourself it's just coincidence, that you're reading into things, that you're imagining connections because your mind wants meaning. But what if it's not your mind trying to make meaning? What if it's your soul trying to communicate? Carl Jung believed that when the unconscious stirs, it doesn't just speak in dreams or private insights, it begins to bend reality itself. The psyche, he said, doesn't exist separately from the world. When something deep within you starts to awaken, life reflects it. This reflection is called synchronicity. Sign 2, synchronicities intensify. Synchronicity is one of Jung's most mysterious and beautiful concepts. It refers to those strange and meaningful coincidences that have no logical cause, but feel too precise to ignore. It's more than a sign from the universe. It's the unconscious expressing itself through the outer world. When your psyche is preparing for something, especially a deep meeting or transformation, it begins to show up outside of you. A book falls off a shelf with the exact phrase you needed. A friend introduces you to someone who speaks the very words your soul has been longing to hear. You see repeating numbers, 1111, 222, 555, and they seem to arrive during moments of heightened emotion or contemplation. These are not random. These are not cute coincidences. They are messages. They are reflections. The universe isn't trying to impress you with magic. It's mirroring your own inner shift. Jung once said that synchronicity is how the psyche communicates with itself through the mirror of the world. It's as if your unconscious is rearranging your external reality to meet your internal state. As within, so without. So what does this have to do with the meeting that's coming? Everything. Because the person your soul is calling in, whether a soulmate, teacher, guide, or mirror, will not just appear randomly. Their arrival will be preceded by a trail of psychic breadcrumbs, a pattern of synchronicities that pull you closer to the version of yourself who's ready to meet them. Often these signs won't lead directly to the person. Instead, they lead you inward. They lead you to books, places, ideas, parts of yourself that need to be uncovered before the encounter can fully land. Because these meetings are not just about finding someone, they are about becoming someone. You may be drawn to a city you've never been to, or to a specific path, a workshop, a retreat. You might suddenly feel compelled to start journaling again or take a class for no rational reason. These nudges are your soul's compass. They are guiding you into alignment, and when you follow them, not with force, but with curiosity, you align yourself with the frequency of the meeting that's already approaching. The psyche's poetry. You don't need to analyze every symbol or decode every number. The point of synchronicity isn't to feed your anxiety with clues to obsess over. It's to awaken your presence, to sharpen your inner listening, to soften your resistance and remind you, you are not alone. These meaningful coincidences are the psyche's poetry. When they increase, it's a sign you're not just transforming, you're getting closer. Your soul is speaking louder, and the world is responding more clearly. There's a strange harmony between your longing and your life, a quiet music beneath the noise of everyday events. If reality itself feels like it's making eye contact lately, if you feel watched by the universe in a loving, mysterious way, don't dismiss it. You're not imagining things. You're aligning. You're not chasing a person. You're becoming the version of yourself who is ready to recognize them when they arrive. And sometimes you won't meet them yet. You'll meet you. Sign 3. You begin meeting hidden parts of yourself. The most powerful soul encounters don't begin when two people meet. They begin when you meet the parts of yourself you've long ignored. Carl Jung spent much of his life exploring the shadow, the hidden, repressed or unacknowledged aspects of the psyche. He believed that true transformation begins when we reclaim these parts. And often, just before a deep relationship enters your life, this is what begins. You feel grief rising from nowhere. You remember a moment from childhood and weep, though you don't know why. You feel shame or fear bubbling up, and you want to run, but something tells you to stay, to witness it, to feel it, to honor it. This isn't regression. This isn't you falling apart. This is integration. Your soul is saying, before someone meets you fully, you must first meet yourself fully. Maybe you feel your inner masculine hardening, trying to protect you, or your inner feminine aching to be held. Maybe old fears of intimacy return, or the loneliness you buried beneath distractions surfaces like a wave. This isn't punishment. This is preparation. You are being asked to become whole, not perfect, not healed, but whole. Because the person who's coming will not be a fantasy. They will not complete you. They will reveal you. They will show you what's already alive inside you, the parts you're now brave enough to claim. And this is the paradox Jung pointed to over and over. You attract not what you long for, but what you've made space for. Not what you seek, but what you are. So when you feel deep emotion surfacing, lean in, journal, create, talk to a therapist or a trusted friend, meditate, cry, dance, breathe, not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself. These are the soul's contractions, preparing for birth. There's a moment that arrives after the rearranging, after the signs, after the deep emotional surfacing. It doesn't feel dramatic. There are no fireworks, no trumpets of arrival. It feels like stillness, not apathy, not numbness, but a sacred, grounded quiet, a still point at the center of your being that whispers, "You're ready." This is not the readiness of achievement. It's not about having perfected yourself or having healed every wound. It's about alignment, resonance, a soft, embodied knowing that you're no longer seeking something to fill you, but someone who will recognize you. Sign 4. A deep calm or knowing emerges. After the chaos of transformation, after the soul-stirring of shadow work and synchronicities, there's often a strange peace, a clearing, as if the inner storm has passed. And now you can hear the deeper voice within you, the one that was always speaking, but was buried beneath fear, noise, and longing. Carl Jung called this moment a movement toward the self, the deepest part of the psyche that holds our wholeness. It is not the ego, it is not the persona, it is the core. And when the self begins to awaken, it doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it simply is. You stop chasing, you stop trying to be chosen, you stop bending yourself into versions that are more palatable, more impressive, more lovable. Because now you know you are already enough. This is not resignation, it's realization. It's the quiet confidence of someone who has met their own soul and is no longer willing to trade that truth for belonging in places that cannot hold it. The still point before the meeting. At this stage, the person may not have arrived yet. You may not know their name or their face, but there's a shift in how you relate to the idea of them. it no longer feels like a desperate yearning. It feels like a conversation that's already begun, just on a frequency. You're only now learning to hear. You might find yourself speaking differently, holding space for silence in a new way, making decisions not out of fear, but from a place of inner clarity. You may start turning down opportunities, dates, or distractions that once appealed to you. Not because you're closed, but because you're tuned. You're no longer casting a wide net. You're sending a clear signal. And that signal is not about being loud or visible. It's about being real. Because when you come home to yourself, fully, unapologetically, you become magnetic. Not in the sense of manipulating outcomes or people, but in the sense that your very presence becomes an invitation for aligned connection. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to find love, because you embody it. The sacred arrival. And then, it happens. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. They appear, not as a fantasy but as a reflection. They may not look how you expected. They may not arrive how you imagined, but something in you recognizes them. Not from your mind, not from your wounds, but from your soul. There may be no grand event, just a conversation that lingers, an encounter that echoes, a presence that feels oddly familiar. You don't need to ask, is this the one? Because something older, deeper already knows. This is a threshold. They could be a lover, yes, but they could also be a teacher, a friend, a collaborator, even a stranger whose words shift you forever. Their purpose is not to complete you. Their purpose is to awaken you, to activate something dormant, to mirror something holy, to hold up the truth of who you've become and invite you into who you're still becoming. Jung believed that these meetings are archetypal in nature. They are not random. They carry weight. They awaken the mythic layers of your life. They are less about fate and more about readiness. He wrote, "What you meet in another being is the mirror of your own level of consciousness. And this is the key. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what you embody." The meeting is the mirror. When they arrive, they won't be your answer. They will be your mirror. They'll reflect the work you've done, the integration, the truth, the alignment, and they'll also reflect what's still raw, tender, unfinished. That's what makes these encounters so powerful. They're not about perfection. They're about presence. You may feel seen in a way that startles you. You may feel challenged in a way that softens you. You may feel as though time folds in on itself, as if this meeting was always part of your story, just waiting for the right chapter. This is the paradox of the soul. What feels inevitable was once unimaginable, and what changes everything often enters quietly. No fireworks, just a stillness, just a sense that everything has shifted because you have. After the meeting, integration. These soul meetings are not always forever. Some last days, some last decades, some walk with you through lifetimes. But permanence is not the point. Impact is. The ones who shift your soul don't always stay, but they always leave something behind. A door opened, a veil lifted, a new way of being that you can never unsee. And sometimes that's the point. To awaken, to evolve, to remember. Remember who you are beneath the roles, the fears, the striving. Remember what it feels like to be met, not in your mask, but in your marrow. Because in truth, this was never about them. It was always about you. About becoming the version of yourself who can receive a connection that is not built on fantasy or fear, but on truth, depth, and resonance, the work of the soul. So if you feel the signs stirring, if your soul is whispering, if synchronicity is knocking at your door, don't run, don't numb, don't dismiss it. Pause, listen, go inward. Journaling your rawest thoughts, following the dreams that speak in symbols, letting your body guide you toward aliveness. Meeting the shadow with honesty and grace. This is the preparation. This is the path. And this is the work Jung called individuation. The journey of becoming whole. Not by fixing yourself, but by reclaiming all that you are. As Rumi wrote, echoing Jung's deepest truth, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Somewhere, someone may already be walking toward you. Drawn not by your perfection, but by your presence. They don't know your name, but their soul remembers your frequency. You won't need to chase them. You'll recognize them. Not with your eyes, but with something older, deeper, truer. Your soul will exhale, and in that exhale, something sacred will unfold. Not the beginning of a love story, but the continuation of your becoming. The alchemy of the soul disguised as a meeting. May you be listening. May you be ready. And may the one you meet mirror the truth you finally claimed as your own. From Psych Lens.